Hi, and welcome to the fifth of the KV421 podcasts. It's a sunny Thursday afternoon, and I'm at home in my front room. And first of all, I just want to say thanks for... I've had some feedback about the podcast, which is quite nice, because I often quite don't know how they go down. What's interesting, though, is most of the feedback that I did get last time related to how much people like my cat. Which was a bit disappointing rather than being about me. But anyway, Hamish is sitting in the chair next to me here. He may make an appearance, but he might not. So we'll just leave that to chance. In the meantime, today's session relates to the next Saturday we've got, which is on the 14th of March. I've just posted a PowerPoint presentation on there as well, which kind of goes along with what I'm about to talk about. And the main theme is about the notion of professionalism and how that also relates to ideas of interprofessionalism and how professionalism isn't a fixed idea, it's a fluid process, which I'll come on to. What else do I need to say before I start? A bit of a reference here. If you've never seen one of the earliest videos by an obscure folk singer called Bob Dylan, check out a song called Subterranean Homesick Blues, which I've posted a link for. That's just a kind of a little reference for you, and the link's on Student Central. I hope this is interesting, I hope this is useful, and more importantly, I hope this helps you reflect on your own professionalism and what it means for you to have a professional identity, because that's what the session's about. Okay, I've been doing some research with by interviewing people that have done training programs, professional qualification programs with us previously, and they've been through the process of looking at reflective practice and this notion of becoming a professional and developing professional identity. And I've done some quite long, in-depth interviews with people and asking them to think about how they became who they are and how their jobs changed and how that helped them become who they are, but also obviously how the university programs they've been studying on, how that helped them. And what was quite interesting was when people talked about the previous roles they'd had, different types of work they'd done, often nothing to do with working with children and young people, and how they felt about their previous roles, and then how they felt when they came into working with children and young people, sometimes for the first time. And what was quite interesting was that the way people described that in relation to themselves, their own identity. So, quite often people would say, when they were thinking about in their previous roles, they would say, well, I didn't like what I'd become. It almost like the role that they had in a previous role, or a previous job, I'm thinking somebody particularly who was working in banking, felt that she was becoming a different person, and she didn't like that. Somebody else said similar sort of thing when they were talking about working in retail. They were working about selling online goods, and they were saying it wasn't really me. So their job they were doing wasn't them. It wasn't. If they felt it, they didn't identify with it, and often they said they would find this quite upsetting or quite disturbing, and they'd say, I was beside myself. So this notion that their job, their role, didn't allow them to be who they were. And that was very different to when they talked about when they first started working with children and young people, and how that was different from previous work. And they'd use phrases like, I felt like I'd arrived, or I felt at home. I felt at home, somehow that being in this new role was somehow where they felt at home and could relax. And an interesting one, which I'm going to come on to, is I felt comfortable in my own skin. I felt comfortable in my own skin. And that got me thinking about how we inhabit our bodies in our everyday life. You know, this is who I am. This is 56 years old. This is what I've become. But our bodies are vehicles for exploring our work. And those change. And one of the things we're looking for when we're thinking about becoming professional is how comfortable we are and how aware we are of ourselves in that role. In other words, how comfortable am I within my skin? How comfortable am I in working the field that I'm working in, and how that feels like that's right for me. And that's what we're hoping to help you become more aware of, how you develop a sense of yourself in your role, in your professional identity. Now, I've said a number of times that one of our aims is to help you become the best person you are, help you to become the most fantastic Jane Melvin, the most inspirational Annie Richardson, the most delightful Deb Price, the most fantastic Phil Lugton. We want you to become the most exciting and effective and dynamic professional you can be. But we also want you to be true to yourself. And that means, I think, developing a sense of who you are in a way which you feel comfortable with. And for me, sometimes that's a bit like trying on different clothes, different hats, different styles. And one of the things I'm aware of in terms of how I've developed is how aspects of myself I feel much more comfortable with than I used to, and how other aspects I still feel a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure whether I really like about myself. So that's changed over time. And I thought I'd talk a bit about my hair. I've had my hair cut recently. Well, I have to say I've had my hair cut. I cut it myself. I've got like one of those sheep shearing jobs. But just as a kind of point of reference, this is I hope you better see this. This is a photo of me, I think, in 1975 at a friend's wedding, and I was 17. And that's me. I hope you can see that. I've got quite curly. I used to hate my hair. And in fact, I haven't got any photographs of me when I was a bit older, but when I was about 20, I had really, really big curly hair everywhere. And I was kind of known for my big curly hair. And gradually what I noticed in my late teens, early 20s, that I was starting to go a bit thin. And I was convinced I was going to go bald by the time I was 20, 25. And in fact, actually, I mean, although my hair has receded a bit, it's not got much thinner than it was 30 years ago. But what I'm aware now is I have to be careful about when I go out in the sun, because I burn very easily up here. So I started trying out hats. This was a hat I tried, and this feels okay, but when I look around at other people that wear hats like this, and then if I think about myself in relation to this hat, I kind of want to think, is that really me? Does that look right for me? Am I comfortable with this? So this is an effective hat for me, but I'm not sure that I feel that comfortable in wearing this hat. I'm not sure that it's really me. Recently, I was really lucky enough to I was teaching in Mauritius for a couple of weeks, and I suddenly realised I hadn't got a hat there at all, and it was quite hot. And so I bought this hat. It's interesting because it catches on my ears. I've got quite big ears and it catches my ears there. But if I'm honest, I feel even less comfortable in this hat. It doesn't feel very comfortable, and I think I look a bit of a Burke. So I'm left struggling with what sort of hat I should wear. I was talking about this problem with somebody a while ago, and they very, very kindly bought this for me, which is Factor 30. I don't know whether you can read that. It says hair and scalp protection spray. Basically, this is sun cream for balding blokes. This is what you wear. This is what you spray on if, like me, you're going thinning on top. And I was thinking, at one level, I felt quite delighted that there was a product especially for me. And then I was thinking, oh, blimey, am I now the sort of person that has to buy Factor 30 hair and scalp protection spray because I'm likely to get burnt on my head? I didn't think very long about that, I have to say. But it was a kind of interesting point of reflection. And what it led me to think about, which is kind of where I'm heading with this, is about how I do feel now much more comfortable with how I look. I know that I'm getting older, and I've got wrinkles, and I've got various scars and things like this. But I do generally feel much more comfortable with the way I look. And at the same time, I remember thinking about, so professionally, am I more comfortable now with myself as well? In what way have I changed? In what way have I lived in my skin? In what way has my professional role changed? And have I arrived at feeling comfortable in my own skin. I think I've said before, I was a play worker in London for a while, and then trained as a physics teacher, and very quickly realised I didn't want to be a teacher, but actually working with teenagers, and particularly young people that were finding it difficult to engage in education and that were somehow struggling with the process of being adolescent, was where I kind of felt at home. I felt I had arrived when I started to work in that area of work. And I felt like I could bring something to the work based on my own experience, but also the kind of skills and knowledge and experience I had. And it did feel like that point of arrival. But then when I look back, I also recognise that I've not stayed still. That actually, after working with young people for a while, I then became more involved in training and supporting others to work with young people. And that took me into being a university lecturer and where I am now. So that sense of progression, how we move through our roles in our work. And this is the bit I think that I'm going to ask you to reflect on particularly, is how our professional lives are a process of becoming more comfortable with who we are. So accepting the metaphorical going bald, or whatever that might be for you. So accepting who we are, being aware of our vulnerability, so where you have to take protection, but also adapting ourselves and feeling confident in who we are. And that involves a process of thinking about, looking inwardly, if you like, think about ourselves as individuals looking in, but also looking out and seeing how others react to us, how others respond to us. What impact we have on other people and how we relate to other people. And that this process of becoming professional is both therefore a kind of an inwardly sense of reflection, but it's also a process of looking out and thinking how we relate to others. And that then takes us to this notion of interprofessionalism, how our identity is shaped and developed by our interactions with others in the same profession, but also other professions. And as we move towards the end of this first year and then on into the second year, the relationship that we have as individuals within our own profession and how that profession relates to other professions becomes more and more important. So, coming back to some prompts, if you like, some things for you to further think about. And these are points for reflection. They're points for you to kind of think a bit more about yourself and in relation to the programme that you're on, and also starting to think about the final written assessment piece that you produce for this module. There's a summative, I think it's 2,000 word piece that you write alongside your reflective practice recordings. And I will give you some more guidance about that next time round. But anyway, some prompt questions. So how do I regard myself? How do I see myself? What do I see as the aspects of myself which are most visible? And how do I feel about those? How comfortable do I feel about them? Where am I in relation to a sense of vulnerability or uncomfortableness? How do others regard me? What do others have a sense of in terms of my identity, my professionalism when they see me? Where do they see me in relation to other people in my own profession? What knowledge do I have? What is it about my role, my profession, and the knowledge I have that defines me? What are the key knowledge areas that I know are very, very relevant to my own professional field, and therefore these are the kind of the core touchstones, if you like, of theory, of practice that are important to me? What skills have I got? What are the skills, the practical things that I do that I've refined over the year that I take with me from one job into the next job, or one situation into the next situation? What skills do I have? How do I behave? How do I conduct myself? How do I position myself and relate to others? How do I conduct myself in my everyday work? And perhaps more explicitly, what actions do I take? Where do I make a difference? And ultimately, of course, that relates to, so what's my sense of purpose? What is it I'm trying to do in my role? How does my professional role define how I act and the purpose of my work? In terms of working with children and young people, I would hope that we have a sense of how do my actions support others' learning and development. Ultimately, in working with children and young people in this field, how do my actions support others' learning and development? I'm thinking even more broadly than that, how do my actions support issues of equality, empowerment and social justice? And for me, those, if you like, are the core values of how I would define my professional identity. Okay, I think that's probably that. Do have a look at this. Hopefully there's been some interesting things. I'm going to, if I can, with colleagues' help, set up some sort of discussion board where you can post ideas and responses to what I've been saying. But please do stop me if you see me and say, that bit was really interesting, or that made me think about that. It's always really helpful for me to get feedback. For those of you that are missing Hamish, there he is, looking very relaxed. I'm around on Saturday the 14th, so I hope to see you then. And thanks for listening.